In the world of military service, there is no such thing as a coincidence. Every round of ammunition, every liter of fuel, and the position of every single human being is calculated with second-by-second precision. But in May 2018, in the desolate desert regions of North Carolina, an event occurred that defied both the laws of physics and military logic. Sergeant Sarah Jenkins and Corporal Torres, names that would soon become the military's greatest and most terrifying mystery, were about to disappear. Sergeant Sarah Jenkins was a mother of two and a 10-year veteran of the Army. She was a seasoned professional, known for her ice-cold composure in the heat of battle. Her partner, Corporal Torres, was a rising star, highly intelligent, analytically gifted, and destined for a distinguished career. On that fateful day, they were tasked with a routine transport mission, delivering sensitive electronic equipment and classified documents to a remote communications outpost just 40 kilometers from Fort Bragg. It was a route they had driven dozens of times, a mission considered zero risk. At 2 p.m., they checked out of the base. Their final radio transmission was brief. Departing base, estimated time of arrival at waypoint 45 minutes. Those were the last words anyone ever heard from them. 2 hours later, when the outpost reported they hadn't arrived, a red alert was triggered. Initially, commanders thought it was a mechanical failure or a flat tire, and a search patrol was dispatched immediately. 1 hour later, the patrol found a scene that defied explanation. Their Humvee was sitting in the exact middle of the highway. The engine was still idling. The air conditioning was running. The radio was playing soft music. The doors were wide open, but the vehicle was empty. On the passenger seat lay Sarah's smartphone with an unfinished text message. "We saw something on the road." The message ended there. There were no signs of a struggle, no bullet holes, and no evidence of emergency braking. On the dusty ground, there were a few footprints indicating the women had stepped out of the vehicle willingly, but those tracks stopped abruptly after 5 meters. It was as if they had dissolved into thin air or had been lifted straight into the sky by an unseen force. During the next 48 hours, the area was completely cordoned off. The FBI, military police, and elite trackers searched every bush and every rock. They found nothing. Soon, the direction of the investigation changed in a sudden and suspicious way. Federal agents arrived at the homes of the missing soldiers and confiscated everything: computers, personal journals, even childhood photographs. Sarah's husband, Mark, was given a stern warning. "This is a matter of national security. Do not ask questions, or there will be consequences." According to a former agent who later spoke on the condition of anonymity, these women weren't chosen by accident. 1 week before their disappearance, they had undergone a special medical evaluation. It wasn't conducted by base doctors, but by a mysterious scientific team arriving directly from the Pentagon. They weren't checking for flu shots. They were mapping their genetic codes and neural responses. Furthermore, satellite imagery from that day recorded a massive spike in electromagnetic activity at the exact location of the Humvee. Was this a coincidence or a high-tech operation beyond human understanding? For 5 years, no answers were given, and the file was buried in the deepest archives, stamped top secret. The truth finally emerged 5 years later, in January 2023, on an entirely different continent. In a remote, mountainous region of the Middle East, an elite Navy SEAL team was conducting a Black Ops mission. Their target was a hidden underground communications hub belonging to an international insurgent group. On official maps, the site was marked as an abandoned old mine. However, as the team descended 30 meters below the surface into the deepest level, they encountered an impossible sight. Instead of the filthy caves of insurgents, they stepped into a pristine, futuristic, high-tech laboratory. The equipment here looked decades ahead of any modern American military technology. Computer monitors flickered with terms like human interface and neural mapping. Lieutenant Miller, the team lead, breached a heavy armored door at the end of a corridor, and his team froze in shock. This wasn't an insurgent base. It was one of the U.S. military's most classified black projects. Inside the room stood 2 military cots. On the wall hung a faded American flag and photos of the 2 soldiers who had vanished in the desert 5 years ago, Sarah and Maya. On the table lay their original dog tags, and even the coffee cup found in the Humvee, preserved as if it were a relic. What were they doing in a secret lab in a war-torn region thousands of miles away? Under one of the cots, Miller found a hidden journal belonging to Maya Torres. The entries described their abduction in chilling detail. They hadn't been taken by an enemy. They had been lured into an electromagnetic trap by a special unit they were supposed to trust. They had been neutralized, rendered unconscious, and airlifted to this underground prison. The journal spoke of Project Mirror, a shadow government experiment designed to merge human consciousness with artificial intelligence. Maya wrote, "They are forcibly erasing our memories. They want to turn us into living weapons for the new war, biological puppets." Sarah forgot the names of her children this morning. She looked at me with hollow eyes like a stranger and said, "My number is 042. My mission is to obey and neutralize. I'm scratching my name into the corner of the wall. Otherwise, tomorrow, I will forget who I am too." The goal of the project was to create the ideal warrior, devoid of fear, pity, exhaustion, or moral principles, controlled entirely by a central server. The SEAL team tried to find the women, but they were too late. Having anticipated the raid, the project leads had moved the women to an unknown location just 2 hours earlier. The bunker's self-destruct sequence was activated, and Miller's team was forced to evacuate. They barely escaped, carrying only the journal and a few flash drives. Upon returning to the U.S., Lieutenant Miller reported everything to high-ranking officials. But within days, all his reports were deleted. The evidence taken from the lab vanished in a mysterious fire. Miller and his team were given lifetime non-disclosure orders, and their every move was placed under surveillance. Today, Sarah Jenkins and Maya Torres are officially listed as killed in action. Their families were given empty caskets. But the living witnesses of that night know a darker truth. They may still be deep within one of those secret laboratories, physically enhanced, but mentally hollowed out, waiting for a new horrific command. This story is a terrifying testament to how a state can sacrifice its own citizens. Sarah and Maya didn't just vanish. They were sold. Their spirits and minds remain prisoners of Project Mirror, while the world moves on, oblivious to the prototypes walking among them.